get this webinar started. Good evening, guys. Happy Monday. Thank you for being here for the very last Shelf Help Club author event of the year. I'm Tony, I'm your host tonight. I'm the founder of Shelf Help, which is the world's first self-help book club and platform, and a place to celebrate working on ourselves and our mental health. Very soon, I'll be introducing you to our tonight's special guest, Lynne Dorling, and we're going to be talking all about aging, specifically how to do it in style, really. And we're going to be using some Super-Ager strategies from Lynne's first book, Aging Rewired. Just before that, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll move on to the main conversation. So housekeeping, tonight we're on a webinar, which means your mics and cameras are off, but if you've been here before, you know we love to use the chat box to chat, so please use that. We also have a Q&A function, so please use that to ask questions as we go, and I'll make sure that I put those to Lynne, and if we don't get time as we go, then we'll definitely be leaving some time at the end to make sure we get all your questions answered. Tonight's a workshop, really. So first of all, Lynne and I will have a conversation about her and her work, and then we're going to run you through some exercises, which will, I think it's just a really nice time of year when we're all a bit reflective. Another year passes, we're all getting older, so let's embrace it, right, instead of fighting it. And so these workshop exercises are designed to help us kind of say goodbye to 2022 and welcome 2023 with open arms. A little reminder that this workshop, like all of our events, is run by the Shelf Help Code of Conduct, which is confidentiality, kindness, and no judgment. You're in a safe space here. No such thing as a stupid question, a Shelf Help event. You will need a notepad and pen or somewhere to take notes. Ideally a bit of paper, and then we can scribble down some notes as we go. So just before I do introduce Lynne, shall we get the chat box warmed up for her? I'd love to know who you are, where you are, how old you are, and then what do you think is the one good thing about aging and the worst thing about getting older? So in the chat box, who are you, where are you, how old are you, and what's the best and worst thing about getting older so far, right? So, as we know so far. So you know who I am, and I'm in Norfolk, the UK tonight. I'm 45, and the best thing about getting older for me, I think, is I'm probably the happiest I've ever been because I know myself better. I think that's one of the benefits of getting older. I know what makes me happy, I know what doesn't make me happy, and I usually spend most of my time doing the former. Is that right? Yeah, the former. The worst thing about getting older for me is, as all my friends are getting older as well, everyone's having families and kind of Friday nights aren't as fun as they used to be. I understand that people have different priorities now. So just kind of rolling with that and learning that there's different priorities, but there's still different ways to enjoy our friendships, right? So I'm going to introduce our expert tonight, Lynne. Lynne Dorling is a positive psychology practitioner with 20 years experience of coaching. She is an advocate for positive mental health all round and has spent the last couple of years researching the topic of positive aging. And while much of the existing advice for approaching later life focuses on the physical elements of aging, Lynne's work and her book tackle this subject from an emotional and psychological angle, which is exactly why I wanted to share her work with you guys. Yeah, as I said, as we get a bit reflective at this time of year. Also, Lynne is a real life shelfie, and she used to come to one of my in-person pre-COVID meetups in London. So how cool is it that we get to celebrate one of our own writing a book? So carry on checking in, everybody. Lynne, that's enough of me talking. Welcome. So great to have you here tonight.
Thank you, Tony. Thanks very much for inviting me. I'm excited to be sharing some of my top tips for future-proofing the mindset, especially at this time of year.
Yeah, I think it's such a nice time, isn't it, to kind of, because I think we get reflective whether we're ready to or not. It's a kind of sentimental time of year. It feels like another year's passed. Have we achieved what we wanted to achieve? Are we doing what we want to do? So I think this is a really nice way to look at things rather than just get stressed about the oncoming year. So I just asked everybody else, where are they tonight? Who are they? So how are you? Where are you tonight? Can I ask how old you are?
Me?
Yes.
Right, sorry. I don't know. How am I? I'm excited. Where am I? I'm in Rickmansworth in Hertfordshire for the moment, just going through a house move, which has tested some of my positive aging traits. I'm looking forward to being 70 in February next year, a new decade for me. The best thing about getting older, I think, is having more time, and more confidence to make better choices for yourself. And I think the worst time is kind of noticing your friends are not doing so well, some of them, and you're very conscious that there isn't enough time or as much time as you might like to get things done. So becoming more selective about that. But friends, health challenges and things like that start looming in, and that's the worst thing for me.
Yeah, I think the physical side of things, as I said in the intro, a lot of the work around aging is that, isn't it? Because we can't fight those things. We can't. No. I was going to say one of mine is like backache after too long on the laptop, and the body does let you know definitely when that we're getting a bit older, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. Although there's lots of things that we can do about that. I mean, it is the foundation. I've no doubt about it. The healthy. Good health, good genes is a really foundation for a positive older age, but also there's quite a lot we can influence, and that's the bit that excites me.
Yeah, taking charge, and that's empowering. I think that self-help is all about really sharing tools, and so understanding that it's okay not to be okay, but there's so much we can do to feel better and to move forward, and that's in lots of different areas of life. So very happy to have you here. Guys, I just saw that I disabled the chat very cleverly at the beginning of the event, but it's now enabled, so please let us know who you are, where you are, how old you are. I've got one so far. Jill in South Wales, 64. Best thing is knowing myself and knowing what I like. The worst is slowing down. Slowing down. But then aren't we all saying that we need to slow down anyway to kind of be more mindful? So what's an average day in your life then, Lynne? You're not just an author. Well, not just an author, but an author is a new thing to you, which is amazing to see in your 60s.
It's a relatively recent thing, yeah. I would say, Tony, there's no such thing as an average day for me, and it's lovely because there's lots of variety. But if I had to say two of my things that I do most days or every day, when I get up, probably essential now, I always do yoga stretches, do some meditation if I can, get out and walk or do some wild disco dancing when I'm feeling really kind of active. There's always some element for me in every day of work, something I love doing now. It can be, now that the book's written, which dominated a couple of years, it's probably more research or coaching or writing. I've had some real good opportunities come from the book, so writing blogs for somebody's website, doing podcasts and webinars, whole new thing for me, which is great. I have to say at the moment, house viewing and decluttering is taking up quite a lot of my day, so that's not average, I don't think. Seeing people, seeing friends, meeting up and keeping connected with people that I know in one shape or form is a biggie. And my days always end with gratitude, and it's one of the things we're going to talk about a bit more today, but about what's gone well and what am I grateful for. That for me, so there's a start with physical stretching and an end with gratitude. So that's, I do still run programs as well. We'll talk a bit more about that later. Some programs.
Yeah.
In my business.
I love the idea that the day, you're the main part of the day, you don't really have a routine as such, but you kind of do have the morning and evening bookmarks, like the bookends that keep you probably on an even keel. And because no routine can sometimes be quite, can make you feel kind of chaotic, but it sounds like this is intentional. You that's what you've chosen, to spend your time doing lots of different things.
Yes, I do. I like to leave my options open. I do like some things in the diary, but I do like to have free days where I can see how I feel and then I can do what I want. And that's one of the nice things about getting older and not doing so much work, is that you have more choice.
Choice, that's a great word. We've got a few more ages coming in. We've got 39. Emma says she's 39 and her knees know it.
Oh,
45, same as me. So Lynne, what one word would sum up your relationship with yourself right now? You know that we love this question.
Oh, I thought it was mean of you just to give me one word, really. So I've gone for one word with a comfortable, but then I added in brackets, in my own skin. So I feel comfortable with me as I am now, but in my own skin. And it's something I've always aspired to, but it's taken me years probably to feel like this. And a lot of work and a lot of activities in the book have really helped me feel better. But knowing myself, a few people have said that, knowing yourself and honouring your own needs, I think that's important. If you're an introvert but you act as an extrovert quite a bit of the time, then you really do need to take your space to recharge. So honouring your needs is a good one, and I feel more aligned. Who I am and what I do are more aligned, so I would say comfortable.
Great, that's a good word. I think you've probably heard me talk about this before, but like content, comfortable, these words, like they're like kind of underrated, aren't they? Like to aim for these feelings, that's such a lovely base feeling to have, and then whatever else happens.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's a privilege, isn't it?
Yeah. Sally is age 50, Shelley 45 in LA in her lunch break.
Oh,
also feeling the aches and pains. Lesson is learned wisdom that comes with age. Yeah. And then Sally's talking about walking your own path, not worrying about what other people think. That definitely happens. Like I think that goes back to what you said, actually. It's like you know yourself better, you're living in alignment with your own values because you understand them more, right?
Yes, you do. And I love that one about not caring so much about what other people think. I think that does definitely come with age and confidence, and you think, well, does it really matter, as long as you start putting yourself higher up your own priority list and worry less about other people's opinions. I think that's a good one. That's a nice one.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your work. So you touched on kind of what you do in a day-to-day. You're sometimes running programs. Do you still see clients? Are you still coaching clients on
Yes, no, I do. I kind of keep saying I'm kind of semi-retired and kind of moving towards retired, and I obviously took a couple of years out to write the book, but in my I'm a co-founder of a business called LBD Associates Limited with my husband, my technical advisor you met earlier, and we formed that business about 20 years ago in organizational change and development and team building, leadership and management skills and cultural change. We did lots of work in those arenas across all sectors. It would be fair to say, as I've got older, I've honed it down and become much more selective. I'm lucky enough to work with people who help and do things that I maybe am less interested in now, but I'm able to cherry pick, and I only really now do coaching, which is strengths coaching for me, since I've become a positive psychology practitioner. And I also run one program called Shaping Your Career, which is a women's development program, encouraging people to take more ownership for their own career and move things forward in an aim to balance up the genders at top levels in one of the organisations that I work for. So I love that. I love that. And I will be honest, I particularly enjoy working with women. And so I could honestly say a lot of it doesn't feel like work because I love it so much.
Well, that's so nice to hear. And would that be across a lot of age? So when you talk about career and women's careers, is that across all age groups?
Well, it is, Tony, but there's probably a predominance of younger women, probably at the start of their career, and then there's some mid-career, and then there are some people coming back after having had families. So there has been a real spectrum of ages, which has helped in the groups as well, and there's a lot of peer mentoring goes on within that. So but mostly, I would say mostly probably 30s, sort of 30s to 50s is probably where we've had we put about 30 women through the program last year, and I would say half of them have since gone on to gain promotions, which they probably would have done anyway, but it just gave them the confidence and courage, I think, and that's often what they were lacking, to apply. And one or two of them were thinking it was too late for them, and they both have been promoted, and I'm particularly proud of that.
That's amazing. Yeah, confidence and courage is something we need at lots of different ages. In our group, in our community, I think we have quite a lot of people who are at a kind of career crossroads, so it's maybe not not feeling that what they're doing is the right thing to carry on doing, maybe, or that they just need to maybe just a bit of a shake up. And sometimes it's just moving around within a company, isn't it? Or sometimes it is doing something totally new, and having the confidence to try that, whatever your age.
Or having a side hustle, Tony, that you enjoy so much that you can segue into something else. But there's a lot more of that now, I think, around where people doing two things, or doing part-time but something else. And yeah, I think you're the person who cares most about your own career, so it's up to you to really drive it. And knowing yourself is fundamental to that.
That's such a good point. Yeah, I think having worked as like a career journalist for a long time, and having friends who got to a certain age in a certain career and then either got made redundant or had to leave for health reasons or whatever, that sometimes you need those big things to make you realize that you care more than anyone else. Yeah. So if you're not in charge of developing yourself, you can't expect some manager that you never met to do that for you in a way that is going to work best for you.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's talk about your book, Aging Rewired. Congratulations. First book.
Thank you. Thank you. Thought it might never happen, but it did eventually.
It's here. It's amazing. And so obviously a lot of work's gone into this, and a lot of research. And I'm sure, probably like me with self-help, it's relevant to you, and it's why it's so interesting. And all the conversations, I imagine, have come from like the paths that you were interested in already. So why did you write this book? Is it because it was information you needed to get, or you just want more people to talk about aging in a positive way?
Well, it kind of emerged, really. It evolved over a period of time. I think, like many people, I'd always wanted to write a book. I had a box full of ideas which stayed in my office for years, never got any further. But the reason it became Positive Aging, I did a diploma for positive psychology and wellbeing about 4 years ago now, which was one of the best programs I've ever done. It was an Australian company called the Langley Group, who I would highly recommend. And we were invited to focus on two topics that we felt passionately about. And I chose positive mental health and positive aging, probably with a selfish motive in mind. You know, I was kind of in my mid-60s then. But I got really interested in this, and some of the research around it, particularly the positive psychology stuff, really excited me. And I wanted to challenge some of the negative assumptions that are around about aging, because there are many and various ones of those. I also wanted to feature some of my own role models, because I had some really inspirational people who are featured in the book, and who was in their 80s, some of them in their 90s. I mean, my yoga teacher, she's probably 85, and she still teaches 6 classes a week because she loves it. And I thought, wow. But I also noticed that there was a big difference, Tony, and you'll have seen this with you, between those people who were half full optimists and half empty pessimists, and the way that they aged and the impact that had on their health. So I wanted to dig a bit deeper, which I did. I ran focus groups, I interviewed people, I called on a lot of research, secondary research. And then the book gradually emerged because I identified some common traits amongst these, what I've termed a bit as super-agers. These people that aged more positively, they sort of shared some common traits, but they weren't rocket science. I'm going to talk a bit more about them later. 8 characteristics that we've all got, and to be quite honest, would serve as well at any time of life. Yeah. But in particular, I noticed how well they serve people in later life. So that's where it started, and that's why I wrote it.
Brilliant. Oh. And what do you want the biggest takeaway for people to be to read this book? Is it for people in their 60s plus, or would we so Tammy is 31, and I'm 45, would we be able to read this, and like you say, these characteristics are things that we should all be working on, whatever age we are?
Well, I think so, because I've tested out a lot of the activities in the book. It's a self-help book, and there's 25 activities in the book. I've tested them all out, Tony, on my coaching clients, whose average age would probably be about yours, you know, maybe a bit younger than you. And they've all been willing guinea pigs, and they have wanted to do more on this work now. They've said, well, it's better to get them, and also they've probably got parents and people in their lives that they wanted to influence and talk to. So yes, what I want the biggest takeaway to be is for people to think differently about aging, is sort of challenge your assumptions and your negative assumptions. Particularly, we can have more influence over how we age than we might think, and I think this whole mindset is relatively unexplored. There are so many books on the shelves about the physical aspects of aging, and very few about, as you said at the beginning, and of the emotional and psychological aspects. And because it took me so long to write the book, I kept thinking somebody else is going to do this, somebody else is going to do this. There's only one other writer I know in his field who's done something similar, and he was brilliant. I picked his brains, and he was very encouraging. But I also know I've done last week a podcast for somebody, and it was the group where I did the positive psychology diploma, and she wanted to sell the books in Australia, which was exciting. And she said, there's so little about this. And I thought, wow, coming from her, because she reads voraciously, that's interesting, because I felt that too. So I want people to know that the mindset is something, if you're prepared to put in some of the work around the activities, it's free. It doesn't cost as much as a facelift. And believe me, I think it'll be more effective. That's what I'd like them to take away.
I love it. It's the anti-aging book.
Yeah.
But I think you're so right about the role model side of it, and seeing examples of writing and case studies and the science telling you that you have more control than you think, and to seek out people who are doing it well is actually, yes. and I think that across every aspect of life. But we're all aging, like it's happening to us all. So if we don't embrace it, then the opposite is that we're resisting it, and that's no good for health, is it, or for all of it?
Yeah. I've learned so much from my 90-year-old friend, who sadly has just died, but she even taught me how to do that. And that I will miss her terribly. But every time I had a conversation with her, I just learned so much, and she put life in perspective, and she was so proactive, which is one of the traits. And I think, wow, we should really listen to these people a bit more. And I enjoyed her company enormously. And so there are lots and lots of people out there who are doing amazing things despite aches and pains and any odd bits and pieces. And I think it's, as you said, it's seeking them out and looking at what they're doing well and copying them, really.
And isn't that the whole ethos behind positive psychology? Because instead of just looking at what we think when people feel like they're broken or feel like they're not well, instead of studying them, let's study the people that are doing it well and see how they're doing it.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
And so you have the 8 traits. So
I have 8 traits. 8 traits. Yes.
Should we run through those quickly, and then
we'll go we can run through those. We can.
Then we can unpack a few of them.
Yeah. As I said, they're not rocket science, but if we focus on these, I think the first chapter is critical, and I feel as though this is probably one of the most important, is a sense of purpose, or ikigai, as the Japanese called it. It's a reason to get out of bed in the morning, doing what we love, doing what we're good at, doing what the world needs, is what they taught. It's absolutely critical at all ages. I mean, it makes work more meaningful if you've got a sense of purpose and you know where you're going as an organisation. But it also is vital when you're older. You know, like my yoga teacher, she doesn't think about it because she knows she's got to get to her classes. So however she is, she goes. That's a big chapter, and there's a lot of activities in there, because it's one we couldn't do tonight, because there's a model on purpose and it encompasses a number of things. The second one's optimism, which is all about your positive mental attitude, keeping hopeful and believing something good will happen. It can be learnt. I mean, learned optimism is a big thing in positive psychology. And I was excited to find that 40%, up to 40% of our happiness is within our own control. So that you can do some intentional activities. I call it the 40% bucket, or they'd call it the 40% bucket. We're going to do something on optimism later. Resilience is the third chapter, and
yeah,
lots of people define it as bouncing back, and I have defined it as bouncing beyond, having learnt from the setbacks and incorporating the learning. And a more resilient mindset can counteract some of the physical symptoms of aging. There's some science to in the book to support some of the claims of this. Great research on post-traumatic growth as well, and one of my favourite role models in that. The fourth one is fundamental. We've kind of talked about that already. Is about proactivity, taking action to make changes before they're forced upon you, and reaction. And you have to be reactive to those. I think it's knowing when you need to move house, in my case, move jobs in maybe some of the members' cases, exercise more. We all know when we need to take action on a health issue, but you need to be proactive to make things happen. That's a critical one. And that's one my friend was so good at. Adaptability, being able to adapt to new conditions. It applies to everybody. We've had to adapt hugely in the last couple of years, not only going into lockdown, but I think emerging back into the world has been tough for some people as well. Managing the emotional roller coaster of change, as I call it, it's a life skill worth learning. There's lots of tips on mindset in that chapter. Perspective, about not sweating the small stuff and keeping life in, looking at life as a whole. Still a work in progress for me. Fortunately, my husband has this one. But in this one, we've looked a lot at what gets in the way of that faulty thinking, limiting beliefs, that kind of stuff, and activities which encourage new ways of thinking or reframing the past. Often forgiveness and letting go of stuff is a good one. Curiosity is the next one, and I know that all your members are curious. We've got lots of hungry learners here which want to know more about things. I think this one's essential. People need to keep interested to stay interesting, and I think it's sad when older people close down their lives and start to become very focused on themselves and don't ask good questions. There's another incentive for this one, Tony, as well, with mental health in mind, because dialing up curiosity can dial down anxiety. I know that for myself. Health anxiety is a bit of an issue for me. But the more I find out about it, and the more I'm informed, and the more I take control of it, then the better I feel. And the final one is about connectivity, which is all about self-help clubs and things like that, and staying in touch, but reviewing your support network and who's there for you to counteract loneliness. I mean, loneliness isn't just a problem for people in older age. It was a big problem, I think, for younger people in lockdown as well. So I think that's an essential one. So that's a whistle-stop tour through the 8. Is that enough about those?
Brilliant. No, I
could talk forever.
You're right though. Do you think we all, like you said earlier, we all have these characteristics? Do you think we all, at different levels, we all have the capability of, like you talked about, learned optimism and like revisiting, or kind of like making sure we're intentional. So about maybe connectivity, don't just expect people to just turn up in your life. It's about that's kind of being proactive, which is also one of the traits. So I think they're interesting characteristics that we can all use in lots of areas.
Yeah, I think they are, Tony. I don't know anybody that doesn't have an element of some of them. I mean, there's in the back of the book, there's a work. It's a workbook as well, and there's an assessment of where you've got them. I know that perspective is one I'm going to have to work on all my life, because I'm too emotional about things, and that gets in the. I like being emotional. It serves me well in many instances, but in this instance, it can make me take things way out of perspective. So we're not good at all of them, but we can improve on them. And they're not things, I think, that are way out of anybody's reach if they want to improve their chances of aging more positively. And there's so much evidence around all of these that one or two of them particularly are proven to increase longevity.
Yeah, brilliant. So they're actually going to make you live longer.
So exactly.
even though we're looking at the mental and emotional side of things,
Yeah.
we also know that the mind and body is so connected. So
Yes.
yeah, it's so important to keep all these things up and to really highlight them. So thank you for that. Shall we unpack a few of them then?
Yes. Did you want to go into some activities?
Yeah, let's do it.
Are your members all up for doing some things, doing a few things?
I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are, aren't you guys? Also, I'd love to know which of those 8 traits you think you would most like to work on, just out of interest, which is the biggest challenge for you. I'm asking everybody in the chat that, Lynn, not you. I know your is perspective.
Oh, I've told you mine. What's yours, Tony?
What would be mine? Proactivity, maybe. Sometimes I'm a bit kind of like, oh, what will be will be. And I feel like that's like spiritual bypassing of, kind of just go with the flow, and what is meant will come. But then sometimes it's like, just because I don't want to do something, or I know it's going to be hard. Yeah. So
yeah. We can all put that off, can't we? Yeah.
Yes. Well, we're going to do that in one of your exercises, actually, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do the first one, which is which chapter is this from? From chapter 4?
Yeah, I think because the theme that you painted at the beginning of this is we're in that reflective state, probably exhausted state, I would think, for many people, just be coming up to Christmas. But thinking about next year, probably with mixed responses. So I was going to make the theme around what we can do to sort of get ahead of the game for next year with a focus on some of these activities. Yeah, so sure. Before we can look ahead and focus on new goals to move forward, I think we need to get rid of anything that's getting in the way or sapping our energy. Oh yes, we'd all like a bit more energy, wouldn't we? So this one is clearing the decks from chapter 4, proactivity. And I'm going to invite everybody, this is an easy one, and if you're on your own, do make notes, but if you're with somebody, I think you will have to do this one, making notes. Make a list of 5 things that have been on the bottom of your to-do list for ages, and then a date by which you will have actioned them. And you might be dreading this, but think how you'll feel when they're done. Yeah. I'll share mine. I'm doing a lot of this at the moment with decluttering the house, but the things I always avoid or ignore are things like sorting out old photos, clearing the inbox, defrosting the freezer. So that sort of give you a bit of a clue, and you need to write them down and decide if they need doing, and then if they do, put a date by which you will have done them. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that, a couple of minutes.
Yeah, that's what I'm sharing the chat box if you're brave enough, guys. Remember this.
Yes, do share.
But I think the idea of putting the date next to it just made me kind of think, oh no, because like you say though, Lynn, it's like if they don't need to be done and you don't want to do them, then just take them off the list. Either take them off the list or put a date.
What would happen if you didn't do it? Is the world going to end? If not, cross it off your list. You've got enough other things. So pick at least 3, but preferably 5 for this clearing the decks. We have only got 2.5, 3 weeks, haven't we, till Christmas? So maybe we're asking a bit much, because we're asking if we can get these done. Some of them might be easy ones, but there might be things that that you've been putting off.
Yeah. I just scribbled down 3 as I was doing my notes for tonight, and the top one is get the car valeted, which is something I need to do because I'm embarrassed to put people in it at the moment. But it's just one of those things. It's just like, oh, can I be bothered? Clear out old books from the garage. That's some of these things I think like that. It's like, I haven't done it in 3 lockdowns, so am I ever going to do it?
I tell you what, Tony, it's amazing what can be achieved when you're moving house.
That's the thing, isn't it?
30 years we've been in this house. I have no idea how much clutter there is, but because we've seen somewhere we like and it's gone on, we want it on the market before Christmas, my goodness, moved heaven and earth. It's amazing how little stuff you actually need.
Yeah, never been so proactive, right?
Yeah.
Somebody suggested that I go Christmas shopping while the car is cleaned for me. Yes, I
Oh,
can
that's
do
an
that.
excellent idea.
That is
That's
a good
nice.
idea, because in my head I'm thinking about dropping it at the place around the corner, which is like in the middle near a field, and there's nothing to do. But you can just do it at Westfield or somewhere where they can clean it
Yeah.
for you. Thanks, Emma. Now I've got to do it. Accountability. Guys,
I
can
think
someone
what
else please share some as well, so it's not just me.
What's this?
Catalogue and discard CDs and DVDs.
Oh,
DVDs, Shelley, what year is it?
oh, well done. No, that's, yeah, it's like me clearing my inbox. So
Go through old cards. Yeah, sorting out photos like you, Lynn, says Jill.
oh,
On my phone by the 1st of January. She's put the deadline.
oh,
Well done, Jill.
and I know Jill, and she'll achieve that. Well done, Jill. I better follow mine. She will do that. That's good.
Find a big enough memory stick to download 782 of my daughter's wedding photos.
Wow. And be
Sometimes
select.
it's easy to do things for other people as well, though, isn't it? As well,
Yeah.
like, kind of, if like quite often we'll talk about what's your why, like why are you doing this? Why do I want to sort out these old books? It's because I'll feel good about myself and I'll have space in the garage. And it's kind of, so I think when you can add in another person to that, for the people pleasers amongst us, it gives you that extra.
Yes,
extra
absolutely. No, it does. There's another element, Tony, as well, that one of your members has suggested. Oh, I've just seen update CV. That's a good one to do pre-Christmas.
It's such a good time of year to do that, isn't it?
But what your one member suggested is that while you're doing something that's on your list that's a boring chore, you're giving yourself a treat. So yeah. I think when you've done these, clearing the decks, then there's got to be some element of, well, I deserve that pedicure or whatever it is that, you know, kind of would be a reward for you. So that's fine.
That's very Atomic Habits, which was our book for January last year, I think, the James Clear book, which is it's all about that, isn't it? It's kind of whatever it takes to get you to do this.
Whatever it takes. And then bribe yourself.
Bribe yourself. Yeah, I love it. A big declutter. Yes. Absolutely. I think it's such a good time of year to declutter, do the CV, all that kind of like New Year energy. It's good momentum, isn't it, for things like that?
It is. It's got to help, hasn't it? So that is the first one. And if people have brave enough to put in there what they're going to do, then charity shops sought to do something that missed that one. Then there's something nice as well about telling somebody else, and then you can feel, or even putting it somewhere in the house where you tick it off and somebody else say, I thought you said you were going to do that. So holding people accountable. So if it works for you, buddy up and ask somebody else to follow up and tell you. So Jill, I promised to follow you up in the new year and see whether you did it. And I know.
Got double accountability. And you did say, Lynn, at the beginning, you did say things at the bottom of your to-do list. So as well, it's the kind of the things that have just been hanging around, because that's really what we need to kind of to feel like we're clear. Like you said, it's called clearing the decks, right? So get rid of the stuff that doesn't really matter that much.
Yes, and I think the thing I always underestimate is how much energy it takes up. So we've had to have today showroom conditions for a brochure to be taken of the house, and honestly I felt, gosh, dare I sit down? It's one of the, but it was very freeing, and I felt energized after that, because you just really don't need all that stuff. We hang on to things, don't we? And it is quite funny. Yeah, absolutely. So do you want me to move on to the second one? Is there anything you want to pick up from the chat, or are you okay with this one?
No, I think that's good. I think we've all got some
got rid of the rid of the things that are crazy us. Marvelous. Now we're going to try and get, I mean, there might be quite a lot of people who'll be glad to see the end of 2022, because it's been a hell of a year, been a year of disturbing world events and massive uncertainty. And a great deal of change. So this one might not be as easy for some people, I realise, as others, but also looking ahead to a new year and what that might bring is always easier when we've got a positive frame of mind, even though we don't know what's coming. Does anybody already practice gratitude? I have a feeling some of your members probably do. Do you, Tony?
A lot of these guys will. I do. I'm not as regiment, like I'm not as strict with myself as I should be, but I do try and do it in my journal. I've got a full focus planner, and there's every day there's a win for the day, So I usually do that one, but I need to I'd like to start the day with it more as well. But the end of the day one is quite nice, because sometimes it's just like, husband made me dinner tonight, which was really nice. So that's like a nice win for the day. So yeah, just to of somewhere to take it down, isn't it?
Yeah. I think I thought I did practice gratitude, but I made it after the course that I went on, positive psychology. Making it a daily ritual had such an extraordinary impact on my intention to be a realistic optimist, or whatever it is I am, that I had to put this one in at this time of year. And to start with, I was just going to say to think about one thing that people are grateful for today, because however awful a day you've had, you can nearly always find one thing. So I don't know whether people want to think about that, or they know immediately. For me, it could be anything now. It could be a delicious cup of coffee, or a card from a friend, or something like that. It doesn't have to be earth-shattering. But it might be something more significant. So if you've got anything about today that you want to share, then please do. But I think keeping a diary is a good idea. Keeping a journal, writing it down, I think makes it more powerful. A friend of mine keeps a gratitude jar where she puts it on Post-its, little things that have gone well. And so it's really nice to look back on that and take them out on a less than positive day.
Yeah, nice to isn't it? It kind of reminds you that good stuff does happen. Sue actually has said in the chat that she's on day 17 of the magic. What is that? I don't know what that is. Let me know. So that must be, I'm imagining that
sounds fun.
Yeah,
we could all do with a bit of magic.
It sounds like it's bringing in some good stuff. Some things that people are grateful for: morning breakfast with a former colleague. That's nice.
Lovely.
Face-to-face coaching session, which enthused me about my coaching practice all over again. Helped by being in a cafe with a gorgeous sea view. There's loads.
Lovely. That's lovely, isn't it? I think the more we do it, and this is what certainly has happened for me, is the more we look for it. So if you focus it a school trip for some challenging kids, that's nice. I mean, the more we look for the good things, the more we notice them. And the opposite is true. If you only focus on the bad news and everything coming in, then you start to get down. But it's an upward spiral with gratitude. And the 3 things that have gone well and the 10 things I'm grateful for, it's just become an automatic practice for me. And it has made such a difference, So
Lynne, do you do 10 things? You do 10 things, do you?
Yeah.
Every day?
Yeah, I do. And it sounds a bit contrived, but at first you start to think, what am I going to say? But it comes easily now. It is worth practicing, because it's so many things, and it's different every day. It's different every day, because you would think, if you only think about, well, I'm grateful for my friends, or I'm grateful for this, but there's always very small things that you might notice, that things have gone well during the day, and just write them down if you can. Yeah,
and it's like you're getting your brain to start working in a different way, aren't you? Like you say, seeking out those bits of joy in the day. I'm grateful for my cookie skills improving. Amazing.
That's
Christmas
nice.
Shopping day. Yeah, lovely. And it's so nice to see other people's as well, isn't it? It just makes you feel good.
It does. It's nice to share them, isn't it, as well, and tell each other what you're grateful for if you can. But you're right, Tony. It does start to rewire your brain. It's an upward spiral. So so we've cleared the decks, and we've gone into a positive frame of mind. 28-day program from The Secret. We'll have to find out about that. Might be the magic.
Yeah.
About other people's. Yeah, it is nice. I like to hear when other people are happy. So, shall we move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's do it. This is the biggie, isn't it? This is the one
that
ideally we want people to have a pen and paper if possible.
We do. We want them to make a start on this. So we've cleared the decks, and we've got ourselves in a more positive frame of mind, and we're ready for some goal. Are we ready for some goal setting and setting some positive intentions for 2023? Yeah. I do love a bit of life planning, and I'm going to share with you the Wheel of Life, and some of you might have seen this before. So Tony, are you able to screen share?
Yes, hopefully you guys can see that one.
Yeah, you can see that one. That's good. This is the end of the year is always a good time to take stock of life generally. And this model, it's not particularly new, but it goes with the purpose chapter if you want to delve a bit more. It's looking at life as a whole and thinking about how satisfied you are. So I'm going to invite you to have a look at the model on screen, and Tony's going to send it to you afterwards if you haven't had a chance to do this. We have suggested around the edges of these are some key elements of a life, all in very neatly segmented pieces, I may add, and they're not normally as good as this. But things like your career, obviously, your health, your friends and family. There's some obvious ones, but if you look at those headings and you think there's something missing, by all means, substitute it or add it in. There is one missing for me on there. I can tell you now, and it's alone time, which for me is like oxygen. So I would always add that in to that wheel. But have a look at the key elements, and if you have a pen and paper to hand, you can do this afterwards when Tony sends you the model. Score each segment of the wheel as to how satisfied you are with that element of your life right now. And 1 is low, and that's in the middle, and the edge of the wheel would be a 10. So what I'd like you to do is put a line across each of those segments and see and draw a line across them according to the score. So 0 in the middle, 10 on the outer edge, 5 in the middle. And so score them all and see if you can then join up the dots to see what shape the life looks like. Nobody's got a very balanced wheel. We've all got some that's out of kilter, but it's an encouragement to look at the whole of your life. Does that make sense, Tony?
Yeah, and you do that as a whole, do you? So that we don't feel too despondent about if one area, because I suppose when something feels like it's not going well, that's a lot of your energy goes into that one area, doesn't it? So it's good to see that other areas can be going better, hopefully. Yeah,
no, I do that. That's one of the reasons that we use it in the career workshops, is because people tend to blame all of their problems on work sometimes. And then by simply looking at their whole life, they realise that maybe if they took a bit more responsibility for their health or having more fun or whatever, then work would go a little bit higher up the score. It's not all down to work.
I think I've seen some people add faith into these wheels, like you said, you can add a long time for you. I think faith for some people is it's quite a big element of life as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is. That's a good one. Thank you.
Physical environment, is that just your day-to-day house, office, how you're living?
Yes, that's an interesting one, isn't it? For me, it is. It's about where I am. It can be location. It can be a work environment that isn't suiting you. It can be the fact that you don't particularly like being in an open plan office, for instance, which I never used to. Or it can be a house. It can be whatever you like, and you need to take some control over that. It can be that, you know, one element of your home isn't working well for you. It's either too cold, too hot, too small. You can take responsibility for doing something around shifting that.
Yeah, and that's extra important now with all the working from home, isn't it? And there's spending so much more time at home, because that would definitely be an area I've made a conscious effort to change that of my day to day. So I'm now going out to a few days a week, going out to a different place, and that's just for a change of scene. There's nothing wrong with where I live and where I am, you know, it's a lovely place, but it's just that environment is not conducive to being creative or being, so I think that I'd never seen that on a wheel, so I like that.
No, I think that, and it's one that most people can do something about, you know. Even if you just light a candle, or you know, you put some music on and shift how the energy is, or do a bit of feng shui or whatever it is, you can change your physical. You can declutter, as we've discussed, which makes a big difference.
Maybe. One day, yeah, we
I
will.
know. Now, I'm aware that this one probably takes a bit more time, and we weren't expecting people to set goals around this, but do you want to?
Do you want to talk about what the next steps would be? So tonight, guys, we're asking you to kind of look at these areas and grade them, and then maybe Lynn, if you can talk about how to go about setting the goals, like I suppose it's identifying one or two areas, as it may be, and then people will do that in their own time, maybe as part of a past year review or some kind of new year, new me exercise.
Yes, absolutely. So for me, what I do this quite regular, well, every few years, I would say I would do this, and I would take my 2 or 3 lowest scores and set some goals. And for me, I'm not big on SMART goals, but they do need to have some kind of time. I like DIM goals. They've got to be developmental, inspirational, and motivational. I like those better. And I think we just need to say, for instance, health. I would say, instead of saying I need to lose weight, you all know how to set goals. You know to do so and so by a certain time and whatever. For me, there's always got to be an element of a treat at the end of it. But I would take probably minimum 2 of your lowest scores. You can't tackle everything. No. And for me, it would probably be personal development, which has lapsed for me while I've been writing the book, and I'll take active steps to put in at least 2 or 3 things for myself next year. Hold me to that, Jill, please. And health as well has also gone a bit awry, and I need to get a grip of that. Happy with most of the others, as well, I haven't moved yet, so I don't know. But does that make sense? So I would take those 2 and think, right, my focus next year is to give myself more time to continue my CPD, my growth development, which is sometimes my husband says, is that all you're working for? I said, absolutely, that is all I'm working for now. That is to keep my brain active and to learn new things. But also from a health point of view, I think, because I need to walk my own talk on the positive aging. So there's a few tweaks that I need to make in the new year.
Yeah. So would you recommend then, so choose the 1 or 2 triangles, maybe 2 triangles that are your lowest ranking, and then identify one thing that you can thing you can do, and then the steps you're going to take to get there.
Yes, the steps you're going to take to get there, and a date by which you will review those, and how you will know that you've been successful. So say if I would like to be the best version of myself, I would probably not term it in ways of losing weight, but I would say that I'm the best version of myself when I will feel slimmer, fitter, whatever. I'll probably give myself 3 months to achieve that. Don't want to get to the big 7-0 and feel sluggish. I will do this instead. So I'll try and frame
deadline.
it in positive. Yeah, I have a deadline. I have to frame it in positive language for me rather than don'ts. It's the do's, which is a real common sense thing to do, but it makes such a difference.
Yeah, massive difference. Well, you'll be pleased with me. I'm starting roller booting this week.
Oh, wow.
Recreation. Yeah, I went ice skating, and I'm actually quite good at it randomly. And I used to love roller booting so much that I found somewhere in Norwich that does it. And I've basically bribed my neighbour and her kids to come with me. But I think I would just go by myself because I'm just going to try it. But that's the kind of thing that I would put and just say, make sure that I try it or go once a week, or, you know.
Yeah, good for you. Give it a real chance. That's fantastic. Sounds fun. Well done.
Kay says she'd love to do it with me. Emma, you don't live anywhere near me, unfortunately. Let's do it though. Roller booting.
Yeah.
I'll be like I was thinking a tiny bit of my brain was like, I'm going to be the oldest person there. But then I just thought, and so what? And then I was like, I'm the oldest person there. Amazing.
Well, Tony, think of it this way: you'll be a role model for somebody else.
Well, there you go. That's it.
And there's younger ones. I know. So does that give everybody enough to be looking at for the new year in terms of a few goals? Has that been?
Yeah, I think I'll send this to you guys, everyone that was on the call. I'll just send you a copy of this so you've got it. And I think it's just a nice thing tonight kind of start percolating on the areas and kind of thinking about, you know, where you being honest with yourself, isn't it, as well? It's like, yeah, it'd be great if money was, you know, say money as a topic, this is what I want it to look like, but really now, how satisfied are you? And then take the next few weeks and the new year time to kind of think about what you actually can do, because as you said, Lynn, some of the things you can control, so your physical environment, there's things there you can totally control, and you are able to change. Health, romance, some of those things are out of our control a little bit, but there's always things we can do to move towards. Once we set the goal, there's things we can do to move towards it, rather than just have a vague, I wish I had a better love life, or like you said, I wish I wasn't feeling so sluggish or whatever.
I think it's about being proactive again, isn't it? And it's about making things happen for yourself and being honest. But writing things down and sometimes committing to other people usually helps me feel a bit more accountable. And so therefore it's, you know, and it makes you feel good when you've actually done it. Yes,
absolutely. And I think getting other people involved is always the best way that I do things. Is it Gretchen Rubin? Do you know Gretchen Rubin's work?
Yes.
So I think
it's great.
It's not people pleaser. There's one of her tendencies is it's a bit like people pleasing, but she said if that is your nature, then just use it to your advantage and get people involved, because then you're more likely to do the stuff you say you're going to do.
Well, that's right. This is why we make a big thing in coaching of playing to people's strengths, because they're much more likely to do things if they're good at them. And we don't worry about weaknesses unless they're business critical. You know, it's an upwards. We're just too focused on what we don't do well. I think that's one of the beauties of getting older. You don't care. You just find a way of compensating, because you've always got strengths in your kit bag that will override your weaknesses. So or you recruit other people around you, Tony, that have them.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. And what was your instead of SMART goal setting, remind me? DIM?
Oh, I call them DIM. They're a bit Pollyanna-ish: developmental, inspirational and motivational. So by then I will have achieved this for, you know, my birthday, and then I'll have a treat, or, you know, there's got to be some kind of incentive, and I've got to think, well, I really should do this for the good of my health, which I know I should, but it's not as exciting.
I love it. Jill, first review date, Lynn, will be 14th of March when we meet in Windsor.
Oh, excellent. That's excellent. I shall have achieved it then. Marvellous. Thank you.
We should do the follow-up, shouldn't we?
We should.
We'll be doing the book actually that we're doing, which is a secret at the moment, but everyone will find out soon who's on here, because I'm sure you're probably all bookworms. It's all about goal setting. It's very much about kind of identifying what you need to do and then the steps to get there. So this is going to be a brilliant start to kind of get people's brains moving in the right direction.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, great for New Year, Emma. I think it really is.
Good.
Guys, let us know in the chat if you have any questions directly for Lynn before we have to say goodnight, and also which of these triangles, a bit like Trivial Pursuit, isn't it? I was looking at the pink one always. Which of these triangles is your biggest challenge area for 2023, would you say? Let us know in the chat. I'll keep that up there so people can see. Career. Yeah, Shelley is in career transition mode, aren't you, Shelley? Well, thinking about it. Now we just need the bolt of lightning to let us know what's next. Lynn, just before we go then, I'll see if I'll keep an eye on the chat in case anyone has any specific questions, but anything else you're reading at the moment that you'd like to recommend to us, as we're a gang of bookworms?
Well, just with that career in mind, well, I've got two things really. The career book that we use and refer to quite a lot is called The Squiggly Career by Helen Tupper and Sarah Ellis. It's brilliant. So if career is an issue for any of you, I would heartily recommend that book. It's brilliant. It's packed full of positive strategies like super strengths, values and whatever. So I think that's a really good one for career people. But you did say, what was I reading at the moment? And as I read so rarely fiction, I thought I had to share this one with you, Tony. I love it. What I'm reading at the moment is Out of the Woods by Betsy Griffin.
Ooh.
age 9.
Oh,
This girl is 9. She lives locally. She's blind, and she's written this book.
wow.
It is astounding, I have to say. I went to her book signing, Tony, and she's there signing books, even though she can't see. She does it with her fingers. And the queue was long, and I went to the front and I said, "Oh, Betsy, I just must congratulate you on writing this book at your age. It's taken me nearly 70 years to write one." She said, "Congratulations on writing your first book. Now, have you got a YouTube channel? Because if not, I can help you set one up." Well, but I've read it, and it's a fable. It's written and it's beautifully illustrated. So it's a great Christmas present for anybody with grandkids, I would say. It's all based on kindness and positive psychology. This girl is inspired me.
How incredible. That is so inspiring. So any of us that have got anything on our to-do list that we can't quite get around to.
I know. And the odds that she's overcome, she's got an inoperable brain tumour, which has caused blindness, and she's had so much, but she's amazing.
It is incredible.
So that's one book that I'm reading that I would really recommend.
Brilliant. Also, you, Lynne, are so inspiring to do your diploma in your 60s, write a book just before you're turning 70. It's brilliant to see, and also to see you enjoying it so much and being able to just share what you love.
Thank you. I do love it. I do love it. I wonder what I'm going to do in my 70s, Tony, now. I haven't thought about rollerblading, but you never know.
Well, I can't wait to see. I'm very excited to see. Thank you so much for your time. It is 8 o'clock, so we will say good night. But yeah, thanks, Lynne, for your time. It's been brilliant to have you here. Guys, I've shared on the app, actually, I've shared a link to the book already. But yeah, make sure you check it out. And as Lynne says, definitely a brilliant, well, you said to me actually before we went live, Lynne, a brilliant gift for anyone who might need a little bit of just a kind of little hug when it comes to the idea of getting older. I feel like it's a hug in book form.
Yeah, that's why I put flow. That's what I put. Thank you all, and thank you, Tony, for having me. Thank you for joining in, everybody, and wishing you all a very Merry Christmas.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you guys for being here. Take care.
Take care. Good night. Nice to see you. Bye, Tony.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.